Bam. Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on PharcydeTV. My co-host Jeremy Scipio, he's at the Comedy Store tonight. You know what I'm saying? He had to hop out there into that double dutch and do his thing. But I'm pleased to have a highly recommended guest, my homeboy Lex. You know what I'm saying? I was hitting him up because I had a last minute cancellation. I got somebody who's he's on. I'll just say he on tour with Soul Sonic. I ain't gonna say who he is, but he on tour with Soul Sonic, and it just did not work out. But that's cool because I got I hit my boy Lex up. I was gonna interview him, and he was like, "Yo, I got the guy, man. You got to interview this cat right here. Let me see if I can make it happen." And Lex put his little magic on it. Next thing I know, I got a phone call, and I hopped into the double dutch. So special guest for tonight is Knowbody from Oakland.
Yes, sir.
All right, tight. So where were you the first time you heard hip hop, and what was the song?
Man, first I want to say thank you for having me, man, because I got the call on some last minute stuff too. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you having me on the platform first and foremost.
That's easy. When we get further into the interview, we'll kind of go into how you and Lex connect, and then we got a lot of folks in common. You know what I'm saying? So it was like,
Word.
you know, and you know, when we had our B-roll conversation, chopping it up, it was like I could picture you being somebody somewhere close to where I could have been at a particular time, and it was all good. So hip hop, where were you the first time you heard it, and what was the song?
I don't even remember, man. Like I was born in '80, so like by the time I'm 4, 5, 6 years old, and I'm even starting to, you know, like recognize music.
Mm-hmm.
I think like it was already a good amount of hip hop kind of floating around. So it wasn't like I was there for like the very beginning and heard the very first song. So I'm just saying, like, I don't remember a particular song that was like the first hip hop song I heard.
I've had people say a Ludacris song, people say Chingy.
For me, it's like it's definitely like way before any of that for sure. So what comes to mind is something around that Dougie Fresh.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The show era. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of BDP. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of the era that I grew up in Oakland, and like, you know, Hammer get a bad rap in hip hop sometime, but like I was a huge Hammer. Like I think Hammer was probably the first artist that I was probably a fan of. And I'm not talking about like Can't Touch This Hammer. I'm talking about Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em. Let's Get It Started. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They put me in the mix, Hammer. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So Hammer was probably like one of the first people that I would consider myself a fan of in hip hop.
I'm gonna tell you something crazy. I could not get Hammer at all. Not at all. I didn't hate him. It wasn't that. But but the thing is, you know, so I developed. So one of my managerial skills that I didn't realize I had later in life, but looking back at it, I had it back then. Okay, so when Hammer would go on in the clubs out here, you know what I'm saying? More like the jiggy-ish clubs, not super jiggy because they weren't really getting super jiggy.
And this is then. LA?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, in LA. Okay. But when Hammer would come on, it was certain people that would go crazy. Like at the college dances and stuff like that, they go crazy. But, you know, one of my gifts is that I can hear a song and I can know and respect that a lot of people are going to like it, but it just doesn't really do anything for me personally. You know what I'm saying? But I don't judge it because the thing is, everything's not for everybody. But perfect example, when Old Town Road came out, I used to argue with my partners and I'd be like, dude, this is a hit. I'm like, man, it's a hit. And they're like, are you serious? Are you blah, 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 whatever? I said, man, let it go, whether you feel it's for you or whether you feel it's not for you. But sonically and just everything about it it's a hit. You know what I'm saying? And so I say that to say, with Hammer, I knew he was large. I never dissed him or nothing like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh man, he's whack. It wasn't about that. It's just that, like, put it this way. I'll say maybe, let's just say before the pandemic, when I was out and about and maybe at a club or something, I could say maybe within the 2 years before the pandemic jumped off, I was in a place or space where Let's Get It Started came on. And even, even like 4 years ago, people was going crazy, and I could understand why they would, but it didn't move me like that. But I saw people and I respected it, and I understood, like, dude, it's a big deal. And so the crazy thing about Hammer is that, I got to, kind of learn. So one of the Pharcyde's old DJs used to DJ for Tone Loc. And so they were going out with Hammer a lot. And when he would tell me the stories about Hammer, it really made me respect him from a whole nother level. Like, not, I still felt kind of how I felt about the music, but like him just really looking out for people. Like, man, the DJ was telling stories like, man, Hammer was taking care of everybody. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like, you just didn't hear rappers doing that. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't publicize that Hammer did that until like way later. You know what I'm saying? Where like, he was flying people on his planes and, all this, that, and the third. So, I say all that to say, man, Hammer's not, he's not a whack.
Hammer always kind of was, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, like, Hammer, like, I'm from Oakland, so it was always like the two prominent names, especially when I was young, that was putting Oakland on the map on the hip hop stage was MC Hammer and Too Short, obviously. And my understanding was that, like, they weren't really feeling each other or what the other one was doing. Like, I don't know, like, I don't want nobody to like take this
the ins and outs,
go start some beef on the internet or something. But I'm just saying, like, from my circle, from what people were saying and the music that I was listening to, that again, I don't want to like put something out there.
But they was polar
because they might have been cool, but they seemed like they were on opposite ends of the spectrum, and they kind of didn't really vibe with each other that much back then.
I'll give you the reference. When I forget the comic book characters, but they said that Stan Lee had put one comic book character as Malcolm X and the other one as Martin Luther King. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it was Magneto and
the X-Men.
Yeah, exactly. Magneto and Homeboy.
That's Xavier, Charles Xavier. Yeah,
exactly. So looking back at like Too Short and Hammer, I could see them, just because hip hop was so young and then they were so young, but Hammer was kind of older, but it just, on some stuff where it's just kind of like, they were different, because Hammer, Too Short was doing his thing. I'm a super Too Short fan, but Hammer was a star. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the different part. And I think that's probably where Hammer got a lot of hatred from, because people were like, they couldn't understand, like, dude.
He was doing a different style of music. He was doing pop music, you know what I'm saying? And that was kind of, I mean, I don't know, like, it was like the only thing that made it pop music was that how popular it got, you know what I'm saying? So it was just weird. I think, like, back then, like how I saw hip hop back then, as a kid, like growing up through the golden age, I felt like it was space for all of these different styles. You know what I'm saying? It was so important for you to be unique in your style that it was space for all of these different styles. Like, it had to be, because it wasn't any space for everybody to sound the same. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, okay, well, it wasn't nothing for me to turn on the radio and hear NWA next to Kid and Play, next to Kwame, next to Public Enemy, next to PM Dawn or something.
You
it was just like
leaving,
this crazy.
you leaving out one of my favorite rappers from the Bay. You leaving Parrish out of the
Okay.
conversation.
No, I mean, I'm saying I'm just using these
No,
these
I'm
people as
messing with you.
examples of like, yeah, like I would hear all of these like different things, and now it seems like it's just like it's not as much space to be unique. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say, back then I felt like it was room for Hammer and it was room for Short. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that wasn't really. It never became an all out type of beef or nothing because it wasn't no need for it, I guess.
But you know what? No one had ever seen anything like either of them. And they're coming from Oakland. You know what I'm saying? Like what you said was so profound a minute ago when you were talking about, the spaces and all that kind of stuff. Because, dude, it wasn't nobody like Hammer except for Vanilla Ice, which I heard they had the same manager at one time. So that was, whatever. And then it wasn't nobody like Short. It was nobody like Short, like Zero. I remember Short was messing with a girl at my high school, and he had came down from Oakland in a 5.0, and you would have thought to bring it into like more contemporary times, Short driving a convertible 5.0 from Oakland to LA to a high school football game would almost be like right now Puffy showing up to a high school football game in a Rolls Royce. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a big deal that Too Short, had, and he was a sociable, he was a cool dude. He wasn't, he wasn't funny, but I'll say this. Me, the adult me looking at Hammer and not the younger 18, because I was probably like about 18, 19 years old or whatever when Hammer was going on. I look at him and I'm like, dude, whether people liked his dancing, whether they didn't like his dancing, there was a lot of choreography into his stuff. His videos were actual videos. They weren't just, they weren't, for the time, he was, they were major videos with storylines and a lot of people and stuff like that. So I say that to say, I definitely give Hammer's props. And then I'll say one thing about Hammer that nobody gives him props for, and he's not part of a conversation right now, but man, he was on the tech stuff way before anybody was on this whole technology stuff, man. Like he was on the technology stuff probably in 2000 or early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? Involved in the whole Silicon Valley thing and all that. So with all that being said, did you ever think hip hop would be this large?
Yeah, I think so. I think like it was already like really big by the time. I mean, it wasn't like this big, but I think it was already like either the biggest music in the world or becoming the most listened to music in the world at the time or something. Like I don't know exactly when it crossed that threshold, but I think it was like already well on its way when I was like really developing my love for it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, it was our music. You know what I'm saying? Like hip hop is unique in that like every generation before it, like the music changed over from like it was like the blues, and then it was like jazz, and it was like disco from one generation to the next, and it was like soul and R&B. But for us, it was like the youngsters right now are still listening to hip hop. Like it's a different kind of hip hop, but they still listen to hip hop, and that's not going nowhere. So in that sense, I couldn't imagine that it would, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if anybody could have imagined. I think that's just something that's like unprecedented at the end of the day. Like, I don't think any other genre has, like other genres have managed to stick around, but it's kind of just like on the fringe a little bit. Even our R&B station up here, man, the R&B station that we've been listening to our whole lives, they playing like hip hop now. Like the station that used to play the singing version without the rap is now playing the rap version without the singing. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. So
yeah, I've mentioned it a million times, but this is a conversation I'm having with you, and we haven't had the conversation. So I knew that hip hop was large when Sprite had giving Busta Rhymes, it was supposed to be like $1 million video budget, and he directed the video, and it had like all kind of special effects. Him and Spliff Star, he was like on the ground, like he was hanging on to the back. I want to say it was the Knight Rider song. I can't remember exactly, but when you saw like an action movie that was a video for a hip hop cat, I was like, okay, things are switching up here. You know what I'm saying? It was totally different from hip hop getting shunned to like right now. If you look at any popular cartoon, I won't say any, I'll say The Simpsons, I'll say King of the Hill, I'll say Family Guy, I'll say South Park, all hip hop references all through it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it made its definite cultural impact. But the twist is that hip hop, like I kind of got into it back when MTV was on this thing called On TV, which was kind of like the first satellite thing or whatever. And I remember it wasn't, I didn't really view it as being large, but I knew the trajectory of it. And me seeing Run DMC with three brothers with hella style going on, and Jam Master Jay just cutting and scratching in the background, and these two cats rapping and going back and forth and walking across the stage, I knew that it was going to be something very significant, man. I just, the feeling, and it's a trip because I've interviewed other people and they talk about the feeling that they got when they first, you know, heard hip hop, and they're like, man, it's just something I knew. Like when you said the show, you can make a recollection back to the show. I remember getting the record, man, and I played it like, and it's a trip. Like I started this habit, you know, back in my teens. But if I like a song, dude, I'll play it like 10 times in a row. Like I don't have no problem playing a song 10 times in a row if it's dope. And I remember, you know, with the show doing that. So what was it like growing up in Oakland?
I mean, you know, it was the hood, man. Like I'm sure different people's experiences was different. For me, like in my age that I am now, like how I explain it is that I was trying to grow up too fast. So for me, growing up in Oakland was like me not like being a kid and trying to like do too much at too young of an age, and like letting that like rob me of some experiences that I wish I wouldn't have let it like rob me of, you know? So I mean, like growing up in Oakland was also like dope. Like it's the cultural heart of the Bay Area. You know what I'm saying? Like
Of California. Of
Yeah.
California. You
So,
got, I tell people when you go to the Bay, you got hippies and gangsters, but they together. And you got a hippie that can get gangster real quick, and you got a gangster that can get hippie. Like when I was up in the Bay a couple weeks ago with Sling Johnson, and he was doing a comedy show, and it was a trip because I understood why I love the Bay so much. So the crowd was basically, it was Hispanic, Black, white, and Asian. And it's a trip because in the Bay, it's like a Bay thing. I'm sure you got people that, you know, don't get along with certain, or don't so much, you know, mix in with other races or whatnot. But with the Bay, it's just a Bay thing. And it was interesting because it was like Slink, he wasn't picking on anybody in the audience, but it was like anybody in particular. But when he kind of went through his thing, when he was talking to people in the audience, it was like the white person could take it, like the Black person could take it, like the Asian person could take it or whatever. And he didn't ride anybody, but it was just that love, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, me going to High Road Day and just like being in the Bay is crazy because you could have the most conservative looking white chick, the most conservative looking Asian, conservative Hispanic, conservative Black, and you turn on the Bay anthem and they gone. You know what I'm saying? You turn on the Bay anthem and they are turned up. And I felt that love. You know what I'm saying? It's a trip. It's a lot of love in the Bay. Like we don't really have that. We have it in small pockets in LA, but with the whole gang thing, it's just not really flowing like that. Where like the Bay Area, I would say my experience has been love first and then funk could jump off. But the initial is love. It's like very seldom that it's just something that's wild or whatever, but it's more like it's love. And then that love can turn to that other part. You know what I'm saying? But it's interesting because, you know, my experience of the Bay is like, it's so many cultures that are mixed up, but it's almost kind of like a down south that's next to the water. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy because it's not just down south, but back to my point, you got dope soul food restaurants out there, you got dope Mexican food restaurants, you got dope Indian food. It's like everybody is just kind of there. So yeah, I've just jocked the Bay for about 5 minutes straight, but I'm not tripping. I love it.
It's definitely it's a dope spot. It's a huge melting pot. So it's like all types. You'll find all types of different people out here. That's why I said it's the cultural heart of the Bay. Oakland is like the cultural heart. Like it's like everything is here. You know. So again, man, like growing up here was just like I don't think you can get the experience growing up in Oakland, growing up anywhere else. But I'm sure people that grew up in, you know, Baltimore or Chicago or anywhere else feel the same way. It's just, you know, certain things that you experience being in certain places. And I don't think you experience it's a way we talk. It's a way we go somewhere else and people like, oh, you from Oakland, huh? Oh, you from the Bay Area, huh? Like it's such a thing about us, you know? So yeah, man, I love it.
Nah, that's tight. So when you were in junior high school, what was your soundtrack?
Junior high schoa that's King of State, man. That's the Chronic, man. That's the Chronic. Like once I heard that, it was like I remember like I was a huge Cube fan, right? Still a huge Ice Cube. I be telling people like if you never seen, like you need to go see Ice Cube perform, man, because that dude know how to rock. I be trying to tell people this. But yeah, man, I'm a big Cube fan, so I'm listening to Cube back in the day. I'm coming off a Death Certificate and maybe Lethal Injection, I think was next. And I think like Predator came out around the same time that the Chronic came out. I just remember at some point me and my cousin went to the record store and he bought the Chronic and I bought whatever Cube album came out at the time. I think it was Predator. And I remember we went home and that Monday morning we at the bus stop on the way to school, we both got our headphones. And I'm like, yeah, man, what's up, man? How was that Chronic album? And he like, oh yeah, that was dope. And he asking me about Cube album. I'm like, yeah, it's fresh. It's not, you know, it's not my favorite Cube album, but it's got some heaters on there though. So we decided to exchange the tapes, right? Man, that boy never seen that tape again, man. Like, I don't think that tape came out. I think that Walkman broke before that tape came out. Like once I put that in, it was just like different, you know. So definitely the Chronic was definitely like high on that list during junior high school for sure.
You know what I miss about those times? I miss things not being so popular and you could have a favorite and then somebody else would have a favorite and just like you and your cousin, you guys could switch albums and turn each other on to different stuff. I'll say this. I called E40. So I found out about E40 because my homeboy had went to I didn't know about him when I was young. Like I didn't know about him in high school. I probably found out about him the year after high school because my homeboy had him. So my homeboy that I know from literally kindergarten, met him in kindergarten, first day of kindergarten. Him, this cat named Waldo, and E40, they went to Grambling. And so E40 would give Waldo tapes, and Waldo would sell them up there and whatnot. And so my homeboy had came across the E40 tape, and he had turned me on to it. And it's crazy because, man, he was everything to me. I was like, dude, this dude is dope. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? And it's interesting how he slowed his rap down, and he kind of, I'm not gonna say he watered the game down, but he kind of translated it so it could be more palatable to more ears. But man, E40 was dope in 88. He was dope in 87. You know what I'm saying? He was dope in 89. But it's interesting, but I'll say in hip hop, I'll say he's the entrepreneurial genius, because if you listen to his earlier raps, he talked about having liquor. You know what I'm saying? And he talked about, like, you know, like retiring, like he talked about being a D-boy and then retiring from the D-boy into, you know, to music. And then when he was in music, he talked about, you know, getting into what he's into, which is food and beverage, which is like, man, food and beverage money don't go away. You know what I'm saying? It's like a person might not want to part with $20 for an album. They might not want to part with like $2 or $3 for a song. But if you get somebody something that they like to drink or something they like to eat, they hook for life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they hook for life. So what was your first rap name?
Man, JD, the Great Escaper. Yeah, that's that you just took me back with that one.
Yeah.
That's the first one that I can remember. JD, the Great Escaper. Yeah.
So what group was JD the Great Escaper in? What was like your first group?
I mean, initially I was a solo artist, I think. My first group, man, was me and a few of my homies was doing some stuff. We called ourselves the Factors, but we didn't like actually do no music. We talked about doing some stuff, and like we might have started writing a couple of songs, but
some
we never
cool
was like
brothers,
four of us.
Some cool brothers.
Like
that
it was four of
something.
us. Yeah, but it wasn't. We never really created anything though. And my first official group, I would say, me and a couple of my cousins got together. Me and one of my partners and my cousin got together and was calling ourselves Ill Figured for a minute. This was like before. There's another group that ended up calling themselves Ill Figure without the D on it, I think. But this was like years later, after we was like in high school when this when we were trying to push this. So yeah, man, it was that's my first album came together because I was doing a bunch of like stuff with groups. Like I would get with my group members and write songs, and I would be the only one writing to the songs. Like people would start writing and stop writing halfway through a song, and I'd be like, okay, since I did a verse, I'm gonna go ahead and write another verse since ain't nobody else writing. You know, so my first album kind of came together because I was in multiple groups that like we weren't really producing things as groups.
Okay. So in high school, what did you think your path was going to be when you graduated?
If I'm being honest, man, I didn't have a lot of direction back then, man. I was selling dope. I was like, I was rapping at the time. I was being told a lot that I was a good rapper. So like I wasn't. Yeah, like if you would have asked me like where I see myself in 5 years, like I couldn't answer the question. Like I couldn't see that far ahead back then, So
okay.
I honestly, man, like I could have just saw myself, selling dope and making music for probably the rest of my life back then.
Selling dope in an apartment, 1 or 2 cars, and man, that was it. Like that was, and it's so crazy. I had a homeboy who he went to prison. He went to prison when he was 17, and I want to say he got out when he was 35. And so we both grew up in the same city, but definitely he grew up in the projects, and I grew up like in a suburb. And I was talking to him, and it was crazy because he knew I was square as a pack of cigarettes, but he just liked me. But maybe he liked me because I was square. And I remember we were in junior high school, and we were in the locker room after PE, and he had pulled out like $2,000 in his pocket. And my last name's Campbell. He's like, yeah, Campbell, you know what I'm saying? I got this now. You're like, here, man, I'm gonna just give you a little taste, man. Hold this in your pocket. And he peeled off $100 bill. And I was just like, and it wasn't like he was trying to suck me into the game or nothing. He was just like, oh man, this is a nerd, he a square, you know what I'm saying? I'm just, letting him know. And I just remember saying, like, damn, he got woo woo. And the funny thing about it, when I interviewed him, he got a book. Shout out to DJ, From a Life in a Maze to an Amazing Life. And when he said he started selling dope when he was like 13 years old. And he used to do stuff like collect cans and just little stuff the kids would do or whatever. And then some people from his neighborhood was like, yo, let's go to this other city and we can make some money. So he said he went, and the first night he made like, I want to say his profit was like $700 or $800, and he started like late at night and he finished like in the morning, and like basically it was like when everybody ran out, that was when that was kind of like when the night was over. And I asked him, I said, man, were you scared? Like, you was 13 years old, like, were you scared? And he said, yeah, but he was very impressionable by the older guys that was around him and whatever. So, he never let them know he was scared. And long story short, he ended up getting arrested, and all the people that was his homeboys told on him. And it was just a horrible situation. But from that, we gonna go into, how did you get hooked up with Hyro?
So that's actually like a good segue, because like just what I was just talking about me doing music with group members, or like not doing enough music with group members. What happened was somebody I was in a group with at the time, had been in a group with for years. One of the dudes that was actually in that original group that I was talking about, the Factors. Me and him were supposed to be building a group just like over the years, and we have recorded a handful of songs, maybe like over the years. We have recorded maybe a handful of songs, but we never could really get the ball rolling on like any kind of project. And I used to beg my group members to like sit down and write music, and these are like dope MCs, you know what I'm saying? And I just couldn't get them to like sit down at the time. We couldn't zone in at the same time and put stuff together. But one of those dudes somehow got some music in the Casual's hand from Hyro.
Okay.
And Casual heard it and set up a meeting with him. And he asked him, like, who is the dude on the song with you, And my boy was like, he told him it was me, and he like told him to bring him with me. He asked him, could he bring me with him to the meeting? So when my boy called me and we got together, instead of us being able to present a project with the both of us, like, we came in with two projects, my project and his project, so we kind of like presented those to Casual, and like that's the project that got me signed to Hyro. Like, I guess like my understanding is that initially they weren't trying to sign anybody at the time. I guess Casual was just like, we're not looking to sign nobody, but these are the things that you guys can do to kind of help yourself, which was a big deal to me, because it was like up to that point, everybody that had ever told me like or talked to me about like doing music, it was always promise, promise, promise. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never heard somebody tell me.
Real quick, man, we gotta shout out Casual, man. I love that brother, man. He's a good dude, man.
Yeah. I'm saying this is the dude that got me signed to Hyro. This is like Casual was the dude that got me signed to Hyro.
And this is the thing, though. He gives away so much free game that people like. I just don't get it. Like, I listen when he speaks. I don't hop on everything that he's on, but he was on crypto way before people was on crypto, and he was on stocks too. And he would just basically give free information, and he would say, like he wouldn't necessarily say take your money and do this, but he's like, man, if you do this, you could do that, and I've done it, and woo woo woo. But Casual's one of them real smart dudes, and when I say real smart, I mean like I'm not gonna say genius, but he's one of those people that will research something and really get to know it, and he'll figure it out. You know what I'm saying? So he would like say, yo, man, I'm telling you, I remember on Facebook, he'd be like, yo, man, I'm telling you, get these penny stocks, whoop, whoop, whoop. They're going whoop, whoop, whoop. And then I would never do it, but I would, I kind of got interested, and this was before Instagram and all that. But I would go back to his Facebook page to look at how he did and how he would kind of like forecast what a stock would do. And he would really be on it. But anyway, I'm gonna let you hop into your thing. I just had to give Casual his flowers.
Yeah, nah, it's all good.
Because they be sleeping. Well, they don't sleep on his rap skills, but I think they sleep on the level of smartness he has when it comes to certain things. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, he definitely like a highly intelligent dude for sure. Yeah. Like he, like I said, man, he was the first person that I had heard like not trying to make promises. It was like, man, look, we can't really do nothing for you, but this is what you can do for yourself. So we kind of just took that, and some time later, like I don't know how further down the line, but some time later, I ended up like running into Kaz again at a show, and he just told me that like he was playing my album for the Planet Asia and the other dudes that was on the tour with him. And yeah, man, it was just, like that's how I like about a couple of weeks later after that. I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks later, I don't know. Some amount of time after that show that night, I got a call from Kaz and he was like, do you have distribution? I'm like, no. He's like, man, Hyro trying to mess with you. So that was the beginning of me messing with them.
That's dope. Speaking of it, man, A+, my other brother from another mother, he just hopped into the chat room and said, "What's up, y'all?" You know what I'm saying?
Yo, what's up, Plea? That's my brother, man. Me and Plea got a whole project together, Growth Theory.
Oh man, see, I can't wait, man. And Plea, man, he's another cool brother, man. Like it's a trip. I got relationships separate with like most of Hyro. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because they're all separate relationships. You know what I'm saying? Just from different things. But Plea, very talented cat, man. Like this is the trip. People sleep on his production. That part, you know what I'm saying? Plea ain't no joke on them beats, man. He ain't no joke on them beats. And
Plea produced the whole Growth Theory album. So wow. I know. Like, and we were collecting beats from different producers. I hope this don't get nobody in trouble with no producers. I don't really rap no more like that, so I ain't tripping. Yeah. And this is not to like shit on no producers either. I'm just saying like we were collecting beats for the Growth Theory album. And it was just like, it wasn't that we were collecting bad beats. We were agreeing on beats. We were listening to music and like, oh yeah, I like that. Okay, we could do something with that. But when we would sit down and start trying to write to these beats, it just like, it wasn't the vibration, man. And at some point, Plea was just like, at some point, Plea was like, let me play some stuff for you, man. I've been like, you know what I'm saying? Like I've been cooking up some stuff while we sitting here doing all of this, man. And he started playing like the first beat he played. I was like, I want to rap to that right there. You know what I'm saying? So that's how the Growth Theory, he ended up producing the whole Growth Theory
album. I'll say, not only am I a fan of his music, but like the stuff he's produced for Hyro, it's just so dope. But people, what it is, he's a dope MC and he doesn't put it out there like he's a producer, so people don't catch it. You know what I'm saying? It would take, in our culture, like where we are right now, people don't really read liner notes or look at, unless it's just like a super popular song, they're not really tripping off who produced it. If it's just a dope beat and if it's two dope rappers, you're going to be fixated on the rappers. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, Plea ain't no joke. Yeah, ain't no joke. I look very forward to hearing that. So tell me this. One of the things that I've talked to guests about in this generation of MCs, like right now, I felt there's been a serious absence of like in every generation, there's people that make music about like the social situation. You know what I'm saying? They'll make songs that kind of reach out to it, you know, dating back to the 70s or whatever. Marvin Gaye, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Dealing with Vietnam, just the, you know, racism, just all kinds of stuff. Speaking of it, man, I had breakfast with my pops today. And my pops, so he's from Mississippi. He told me that his father had took him to an auction when he was probably like 12 years old. And he said they had to eat their lunch in the kitchen because so first he just said, yeah, man, you know, eating breakfast with you this morning reminds me about, you know, eating with my pops. And then I was like, you know, what about it? He's like, you know, he probably would have really liked this. And my dad is 80, so he's an older dude. So he was like, yeah, you know, my dad would probably get a kick out of what we're doing right now. And I was like, oh, so he says, yeah, I can remember going to this animal auction with my father. And, you know, we were eating our lunch in the kitchen. And I was like, why were you eating it in the kitchen? You know what I'm saying? What they, you know, you guys knew somebody? He's like, no. He said, Black people wasn't allowed to, you know, but like Black people wasn't allowed to eat, you know, with white people. And I was just kind of like, dang. So
people think that's so far removed from, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we so far removed from that. You're telling me your father experienced this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was like, and you know, it's interesting because I used to, you know, my pops wanted to just have breakfast every day. Like, and then, you know, I have my own business or whatever. So I'm like, man, I need to get to the office. Woo, woo. And I had one of my closest homeboys was like, man, you know, you got something with your father that many people don't have. And he said, you know, whether you agree, disagree, or whatever with your father, you know, you can't argue with his experience. Like he's in, because my dad's done decent in business too, but he's like, dude, he's seen some stuff. And like, not many people have a reference point that they can go to that has, you know, seen some stuff. So with that being said, I used to really come down on the generation of rappers right now because I used to feel like, man, they're just all concerned about bling and money and women and just like everything other than like tangible stuff. And then came Kendrick Lamar's album this year that came out. And it gave me some hope because everyone's not a Kendrick. Like, dude, I'll say that there's maybe one Kendrick in every 300 rappers. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone's not a Kendrick, but it made me feel good that a younger guy took the time to, he never threw up a picket sign for any particular issue, but he made us all understand that he was aware of what the social climate was, which I felt that was super dope too. What did you think of the Kendrick album?
Man, I'm gotta be honest. I ain't even had a chance to get into it yet. I'm a school teacher, and like I just got finished with summer school a couple of weeks ago, and like I'm the type, I don't want to listen to I just was telling my boy this recently. Like I don't like to listen to an album until I know I got time to sit down and digest it from front to back. I don't like to start an album and have to stop it somewhere in the middle. So I haven't had a chance to dive into that yet. Like it's high on my list.
That's the old way, man. You gotta hop in the double dutch, man. But it's dope.
I can't do it like that, man. Because I get hooked on the first 3 songs and then won't never listen to the rest of the album.
Nah, but that's dope. Like for me, Saturdays are my one day a week that I'm gonna listen to one album in its entirety. Whether it's new wave, whether it's whatever, whether it's rap, hip hop, whether it's jazz, whether it's rare grooves or whatever, I make it a point because I feel like, you know, somehow when like popular music just like kind of really took over in hip hop, like no one wanted to hear an album anymore. You know what I'm saying? But for me, listening to an album is looking at the artwork first. Like before you even get to that, looking at the artwork. And then listening to the album from beginning to finish, and you might not like every song, but to me, I thought it was dope that every song wasn't just a 10 and a banger because the album was able to take you on a journey. you know what I'm saying, and kind of
Right.
move you through this space. So yeah, that was dope. Well, no, man, you need to check the Kendrick album, man. It's yeah, it's
Sure.
fire. Yeah, it's fire.
Yeah, I mean, I've only heard good things about it.
Okay. Nah, that's dope. That's dope. So how did you link with the architect?
Just kind of by way of like, being in that circle, you know what I'm saying? Like once I linked with Hyro, I kind of started like being in that circle, and Architect, like you mentioned, was doing this is I think me and Art kind of really started talking and talking about building something around the Vulture's Wisdom album, or around, I think him and Oak did a project. I want to say it was called like Everybody Loves the Sunshine or something like that. It was just like all of the songs was just like Opio doing one verse, and Architect did all of the production. It was like Opio would do a verse, they'll find like some sample or something to kind of fill it in. And I had told Arc way back when, like, I would like to do one of those and just have it be like kind of like a series, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just do one trail. I mean, like I was just kind of thinking about how I could cheat and just do a project. I'm like, oh yeah, I could just write one rap for every song, one verse, and
Right.
you can come in and put some cuts and some samples in there, and that'll be a song, But we didn't end up actually doing anything probably for about another 10 years, or close to that after that point.
So you're a school teacher. Have you ever sat and thought, man, I know some dope producers personally, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, a school teacher, you're like, man, you probably the coolest school teacher at the school, man. Like, man, you know some producers that got heat.
Yeah, for sure. Some producers, MCs, like I wish that the kids were connected to, like I could bring in some people, but they'd be like, whatever. They like they won't understand that they like dealing with like hip hop royalty and shit. They just like, oh, whatever. Like they are whatever generation, so they ain't tripping.
Yeah, nah. So
And most of my students don't even know I ever did music.
oh wow. So would you say the kids now versus when you were coming up, are they wilder? Are they smarter? What would you say to what would be your comparison to the kids right now to what the majority was when you were coming up?
It's different, man. It's the internet made everything so different, man. Like it's like the world is so much smaller. They connected. They can talk to kids on the other side of the planet. It's nothing that they don't have, you know what I'm saying, access to. Like it's like they carrying the world around. They like how we used to have to like lean on those Encyclopedia Britannicas, you know what I'm saying?
Man,
Like you
Right
needed
On magazine.
the whole set.
We had to lean on Right On magazine.
I'm just saying, like, they carrying like the whole encyclopedia around in their pocket. And it's an ever-changing encyclopedia. They don't like we had to buy the new set when the new set came out. Like they just have a ever updating encyclopedia that they carrying around. So it's definitely different. I don't want to like label it like they wilder or they're smarter, because I think like every generation, like we adapt and we get smarter with the times. I think they are like geniuses for their time. I think like like we're a part of what my homies call like the pre-Google generation. We're like we're right there on that cusp of like we're young enough to, or we're old enough to remember the world before the internet really took over, and we're young enough to had rode the wave when it did take over. You know what I'm saying? So the generations under us are like they don't know about pre-Google. They just like came up with the devices in their hand. And you see the babies nowadays, like run the device. If you need help with your iPad, ask a 5-year-old and they'll get you some help.
So tell me this, you being a teacher, and this is gonna be a cool segue into the next question. You being a teacher, how do you do you allow them to use their phones when you're teaching the class or whatever? Or like how does that work though? Because it's like, are because it's kind of cheap.
So for my class, it's like I teach digital media. So I'm basically teaching them photography and videography, but I'm teaching them that from their phones. So I'm teaching them how to capture the highest quality photography and video that they can from the devices that they already carrying around. You know what I'm saying? Like I could bring in a camera and show them how to take pictures with a camera, but if they don't have that camera, if they don't have access to the camera, then you know what I'm saying? Like it don't really matter. So like a lot of the times, like the students just pull out the devices that their parents provided for them, and we go off of those.
Well, you family by default, so I'm definitely gonna be hitting you up after this interview to have you help Uncle Smooch along with some of this technology that you knowing about. I'm like, okay, so why did you stop making music?
I got to a point where I had given it a lot of my life, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that for any musician, any artist, they kind of know what I'm talking about. I had just given it a lot, and I needed a break. I needed to like be able to do like I was the type of artist that like it was like all consuming. Like I couldn't do anything. I wanted to do music, and I didn't want to. Anytime I ever like tried to hold down a job, it just like got in the way of art. You know what I'm saying? And it was like for me, it was just always art first. And I just made it to a point, man, where I was just like, I didn't feel like the ball was rolling no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm being honest, I didn't feel like the ball was rolling no more. So a part of it was just like, I want to do something different. Like, it's time for me, like my journey in hip hop was like very blessed. And I had just gotten to a point where I decided I could walk away, and I had never felt like that before, and some of it was frustration, some of it was just being frustrated with my own situation and watching, like other artists like just like leapfrog, like, without like I saw artists not putting in the work and not caring about the craft, that were just, like being presented with like these crazy opportunities. And it, like, and I'm not the type to, I don't hate anybody else's opportunities. Like, I hope everybody can, like short of, your happiness inflicting pain on somebody else, I hope everybody can achieve the happiness. You know what I'm saying? So, but for me, it wasn't, like I just needed to do something else. I needed to step away from it. And when I did, I happened to get into teaching like just a little while after I stepped away. And I think that really just like helped me out a lot.
Well, yo, we got to give a shout out to Sky in the chat room. You know what I'm saying? He said he loves your music. He listens to it to this day. You know what I'm saying?
Man, much appreciated.
Nah, you know the crazy thing, I just left one of my homeboys that I went to high school with. He graduated a year ahead of me. And he lives like maybe like 3 or 4 minutes from me. So I passed by his house on my way home today, and we were talking, and he was a guidance counselor at the high school that both of us went to, that's like 5 minutes from my house. And now he's a vice principal at this prep high school in LA, kind of in the hood, whatever. And I was talking to him, and I was telling him, man, the hardest thing to understand is that we on God's time, man. You know what I'm saying? And like, we could want something as bad as we want it. We could want it as bad. We could put all the efforts, all the energy, all the every single thing, but we on his time. And it's not about the Christian faith. It's not about the Islamic faith. It's not about any particular faith. It's just about the universe. And you could pour whatever you want to pour into a situation. Your work ethic could be tight. Every single thing could be cool, but it's another plan for you. So we were tripping because I was talking to him and I was like, dude, it's crazy how you were a guidance counselor at a high school. Some things happened. You stopped working there. You went, you tried to figure some stuff out. And now you're dang, what did he call it? He called it he's an administrator. You know what I'm saying? Like he went from being a guidance counselor to an administrator, and he was like, "Man, I want to be principal before I retire." And I got like 5-6 more years before I retire. And I was like, "Dang!" So I'll say it's dope that you coming back to music, and I could tell by talking to you. And this, I'm not jocking you. Please don't. It's not that. But you're not a dummy. Like you, I could tell.
No,
you know, through the conversation, your work ethic is on point. You know what I'm saying? Whether I've been into your music, whether I haven't been into your music, I've seen enough people in the last 2 days who like your music a whole lot to understand that there's something there for somebody. Like I said, Lex was like, yo, he was like, yo, man, this is the cat you need to talk to. So with that being said,
Lex is one of the handful of like people that's like really trying to push me to like get back into music, man. So shout out to DJ Lex, man. Like that's my boy. That's the reason why we sitting here talking to each other right now. So just a shout out to DJ Lex.
Yeah, and go check Lex Level. Lex Level is his IG, man. I think he slang some tacos, and it might be some salsa going down off in there. So he's a man that wears many hats and keeps it popping. So yeah, shout out to DJ Lex. So has faith played a role in your decision making?
Yeah. In like I'm a more spiritual person than I am a religious person.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like I still, like to me that means something. So I still like faith definitely plays, in all of my decision making. But like as it pertains to music, yeah, man, like stepping away from it, like it was like personal stuff I wanted to figure out too, man. Like ego was a thing for me. Like it sounds weird, but I wanted to like, I felt like my ego was like, I didn't feel like my ego was getting out of control in a sense of like I was an egomaniac, but I felt like I cared too much about what other people thought about the music. You know what I'm saying? Like that was another reason I had to get away from it, because when I would do a song and I cared too much about how many people was gonna like it on Instagram or how many hits it was gonna get on YouTube. And I didn't get into music for that.
So that's why no social media. You just like radio silence on them.
Exactly. That's exactly why. Like when I stepped away from the music, I was like, I'm cutting all of this off because I need to like kill the whole idea of that ego.
I was out with the Gorillas with Brown. And they had Paul Simonon and Mick Jones. Paul Simonon's the bass player from The Clash. Mick Jones, the guitar player from The Clash. They were in a group together, in the Clash together at one point, and then they weren't in the group or whatnot. And it's a trip because I got to be, close and cool with both of them. You know what I'm saying? On separate, separate relationships. And one of the things that Paul Simonon had kind of broke down to me was, when he was in the Clash, and Mick Jones, basically he was in the Clash and then he did a solo career, you know what I'm saying, which kind of, he left the Clash and he did the solo thing. But kind of like Paul Simonon, one of the dopest bass players ever. You got to check him out. The Clash, they did Radio Clash, if you're not familiar with whatever, but dope group. So when Mick left the group, and Paul was kind of upset, dude, he put his bass down for years and just straight out learned how to paint. You know what I'm saying? Literally he put his bass down for years, learned how to paint. And I want to say he sold his first painting for like $40,000 or something like that. And then he just, he started painting and he came back to the bass, but it was kind of like with the group thing and just all that stuff. He was like, man, you know what I'm saying? And so I can kind of parallel that to your situation, where I always think is dope. First of all, if a person's an artist, if they are talented, a lot of times the talents in the art isn't just in one box. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, I can't wait to hear your new music, because it's like, okay, you made music, you know, years ago that meant a lot to a lot of people. You stepped away, you became an educator, you did some other things with your life. Now you're coming, now it's like the wiser you, in a sense, is coming back to it with the same talent, with the same skill, with the same art. And like now you feel like, well, this is what I could tell from speaking to you. You feel like now you're ready to do your thing, and maybe people are ready to receive it, and maybe you can give more to it because you're coming from a different space.
Not like, honestly, like it's more like, so I got a bunch of stuff that was like pretty much done before I stepped away that I never put out. So the first thing I'm trying to do is get all of this stuff like mixed and sounding right. And like I haven't written anything in like about 4+ years now. So before I put pen to paper, like I got to get all of that stuff done and out, because I've been explaining to people I'm not coming back to like collect music again. So like as of right now, like the stuff that I am gonna put out, it's like 2 or 3 albums that are gonna come out that are like 4 or 5 years old. You know what I'm saying? So 5+ years old, some of them. So I do want to get those out, and then I'm still kind of playing with the idea of like dipping both feet all the way back into it, man. I miss performing more than anything. If I'm being honest, I miss performing, man. That's why Lex is like really on my line.
I'll tell you this, man. I've seen a couple school teachers that have been able to do both. I want to say Sadat X is a teacher, or he works for a school, but like, you know, man, this is it. Hip hop in 2022 is different than hip hop was in previous years. You can like, and it's a trip like Motion Man. You know, we went out with Motion Man, if you know him from the Bay. He worked for, I want to say he worked for Federal Express, and he would use his vacations and hit the road. You know what I'm saying? He'd hit the road and do his thing. So that's dope. So tell me this, what's your favorite documentary?
Favorite documentary? I don't know, man. That's a good one. I watch a lot of documentaries about a lot of different stuff. I'm kind of on the spot for that one, so I might have to get back to you on that one.
All right, that's cool.
I can't just like think of one just off the top of my head right now.
What was the last one you saw?
Probably some kind of murder documentary or so. I watch documentaries about all types of different
stuff.
Be
crazy, man.
People be crazy, man.
They be crazy, man.
What's the last documentary I watched? I don't know, man. I know I was showing my girl this documentary, The Jinx, but I saw that like years ago. I'm just showing it to her. Yeah, I don't know, man. I can't remember the last one I watched.
All right, that's cool. So who would play you in a biopic?
DJ Jazzy Jeff, because my girl be saying I look like the nigga all the time. So I'm gonna go with DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Nah, that's dope. What's the best advice someone's giving
you? Best advice. I don't know, man. I don't know. Best advice, just I think like it's a culmination of like all the advice that I got over the years. That kind of just, you know, like it's a lot of just jewels that, you know, different people kind of gave me over the years, and I think, you know, stuck. I can't think of like one. Like just one jewel that somebody gave me that's just like sticking out. I can like I can think of like things in music, like when I linked up with Hyro, like A+ like really took me under his wing. And like Plea taught me like a lot, just like on the road, you know, just touring and being a part of the music game. I did a lot of shows. I did more shows with A Plus than, you know, all of the rest of High Road put together, you know. So one of the things that Plea told me early on in my career, this just popped into my head, you know, was that like treat people right. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you don't know, and it wasn't like because of this, but it was like you never know who you meeting today and the position you'll be in or they'll be in 10, 15, 20 years from now. And this was like coming from somebody that had already put in 10, 15, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? When he's telling me this, he's already put in these years. So, you know, like, I believe in just sharing good energy anyway. So I took that and ran with it. It's just, again, man, I got advice from everybody, you know, throughout my life. So,
you know, one of the craziest things, and no one will probably recognize Hyro for this, but like all of them are hella smart, man. And not on some, you like, music just happens to be the art that they do, but like all of them individually, like hella smart. Please, just like all those dudes. And actually, you know, I've learned a lot from them individually. Like, just you know, you take different things from different people, but like, you know, Opio's a genius in his right, Please a genius in his right, Festo.
You can hear it. You can hear it in their music, man. You don't scheme like that. You don't create the patterns and the ideas, and you know what I'm saying? You can't like channel like that unless you know, have a certain level of intelligence. So you can, like, that just speaks in their music.
Unless they all happen to be the greatest actors that we've ever seen in our generation. You know what I'm saying? But even if they were that, they
even then, man, you need a ghostwriter. There's somebody be ghostwriting that shit for them.
Yeah. So the most motivational person in your life.
Probably my little sister. Like, you know, I don't even know why, but like, she's just always like, you know, that's my baby sister. I just love her to death. And,
you know what?
I
could take that, because I don't have children, but I look at like my homeboys' children, and it makes me feel good, because I'm like, damn, the future is bright. Like, regardless of all this ridiculous stuff we got going on, there are people that are, you know, children that are raised with some common sense. They got the right, you know, grooming and grazing on them. And even with all the ignorance, it is going to be a couple oddballs in the mix that are going to make some sense. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully figure some of this out. Your most legendary moment.
My most legendary moment. Some of these answers be like kind of, you know, I'm a thinker, so it's probably not what people would expect me to say. I want to say two answers for this.
Okay.
One would be one of the first shows I did with Hyro. I wasn't really booked for the show. They were booked, and they just kind of like brought me out on stage to do a song. This was at Rock the Bells 2006 or 7, maybe. This is at AT&T Park, like in the parking lot. Like, it's a huge parking lot behind the stadium.
Yeah.
So it's like 60,000 people out here or something, man. It's like 60,000 people in front of the stage watching Hyro rock. And by this time, I already been getting down, already been performing for about 10 years. And I'm rarely nervous when I get on stage. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm dope. I already know I done did it in front of enough people. Like, I can't wait to do it. And I remember like going out there and like being like backstage, looking out, seeing this like sea of people. I've never seen that many people in my life. And man, that was a very, very legendary moment to me. Like I said, that was one of the first shows I did with them dudes. But also, I used to sell CDs on the street before. Like, this is how I thought I was gonna get my record deal. I used to sell CDs on the street. Like, this is how I paid my rent for some years. Okay. And my phone number would be on the back of every CD I sold. And like selling, I used to go out to San Francisco and sell CDs. And I had basically like a quota every day. I need to sell 100 CDs. And I was selling CDs for like $1 or $2. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I need to sell 100 of these CDs before I come home today. And to sell 100 CDs, you got to hear about 1,000 no's. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people gonna tell you no before you sell 100 CDs. You know. So I remember one weekend, one Sunday morning, I get up, like I went out to my cousin's house after I was selling CDs that day. And that Sunday morning, I wake up and I don't even really feel like going and selling CDs. And I'm kind of debating, and I get a phone call. And it's this youngster, and he like, yeah, man, I bought your CD from you out in San Francisco one day. And he was like me and my mom, it's just me and my mom together. And he was like, man, I was really like in the streets doing a lot of stuff. And he said, you had a song on your album called Heavenly Father. And it's not like a super religious song. It's just me having a really honest conversation with God. You know what I'm saying? From my perspective. And the dude was like, man, I listened to the song and it just like really hit me, and it made me start going to church, and like me and my mom are doing a lot better. And I just felt like I needed to call you and tell you that, you know? And for me, like that's my biggest accomplishment in music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that I was able to affect somebody else's life in a positive way like that. You know what I'm saying? To where they felt like they needed to even call me on a Sunday morning and just express that to me. That's the most legendary, you know what I'm saying, like thing that I've ever done.
No, that's a big deal. That's a big deal for sure. So your top 3 rappers.
Top 3 MCs. Like all time?
Yeah.
That's a good one, man. Scarface is like my favorite rapper.
The Fix.
Yeah, that's my joint right there, man. That's my joint. I mean, you know, The Diary, Untouchable, but the Fix, that's my joint right there.
Yeah.
So Scarface, I'm just gonna throw him out there first. Man, that's hard, man. After that, that's kind of hard, man, because I only got 2 slots left.
Who come to mind?
Oh man, Rakim comes to mind, but I don't know if I want to like put. Oh man, that's a hard one, man. Because I'm thinking old school, I'm thinking new school. Andre 3000, I think is like one of the best rappers on the planet. So it's hard for me, not like Nas. It's just like been so consistent for so long. Like it's hard to not consider giving him a slot. Man, yeah, man. That's I'm gonna go Face. I'm gonna go Pac, because I'm gonna go Pac, and I'm gonna go, and this is gonna throw a lot of people off, but I'm gonna go Bad Influence, man. That's a group from Oakland. A lot of people might not know, but for me, when I was getting into like starting to write, like them and Pac were like my biggest influences, man. Like they were like, they taught me that you could rhyme. It's a rhyme out there for anything. Rap and Rhyme and Dilly Dog. Rest in peace, Rap and Rhyme. And Dilly go by A Dulo now. So, but those dudes was like, they could rhyme anything. They woke my game up to like, it's a rhyme out there for anything. You just gotta dig, right? And Pac kind of gave me the side of like, you got to be vulnerable, man. You got to let them in, man. You got to, you know, if you want them to feel you, you got to give them something they can feel, you know? Like I got that from Pac, man. And you know, the rhyme scheme, wanting to be the best rhymer, I got that from Bad Influence. So I'm going to put both of those on my list.
Dope. So if you could have your dream verses, dead or alive, who would it be?
Pac and Big, and that sounds really like cliche, but I imagine them two in a room together like without the beef. Like, so when you ask me a versus, I'm not imagining Pac and beef that died.
I'm
and
not
we
thinking
know,
beef.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm imagining Pac and Big doing a versus battle. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine that. Like, both of them had a good amount of hits. You know what I'm saying? Like, elite level MCs. Like, I would have loved to have seen that.
Dope. So, if you ruled the world and you could change one thing, what would it be?
I mean, the wealth distribution. It's if it's enough food to feed everybody, everybody should eat. If it's enough, like, somebody shouldn't own 5 houses and you can only sleep in one room at a time, and there's people sleeping outside under almost every overpass that, you know what I'm saying, out here in these cities. So yeah, like, if I could change anything, it would be like wealth distribution for sure.
You sound like Pac right there for real, man. Pac said, he's like, man, what do you need a house with all these rooms for, man?
Man, that don't make sense, man. That don't make sense to me. No.
Nah, that's dope. So I'm gonna hit you with the last one. This will be good coming from you because you're an educator, and it's crazy, you know, dealing with my homeboy who's the vice principal. We kind of had this conversation today too, and he was talking about how hard COVID had been on the kids, like, you know, school kids. He's like, man, you know, their interaction is different from our generation's interaction, where we're more like I tell people, like, I'm older than you, but I'm sure even in your generation you understood, like, man, we knew how to talk to girls, you know what I'm saying? So it was like like we didn't have to come with corny DM slides and all that kind of stuff. Like, man, if you wanted a girl, you know, mid 80s up to 2000s or whatever, you had to holler. And dude, if you didn't look cool enough, if your gear wasn't whatever, Mouthpiece could get you anything you wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to have that. But with this generation, they rely so heavily on social media and filters and memes and all this kind of stuff that when COVID jumped off, and they already didn't really communicate with each other in, you know, in person, so, or the way that we communicate, like, they didn't talk to each other like that. And then COVID jumps off, and then they go deeper into this meta world, or this, you know, this social media vortex, matrix, you know, whatever. With you, from what you've seen, kids, you know, before COVID, kids after COVID, coming back to school and everything, where do you see social progression going in the next 2 years?
Social progression, in the sense of, like, the kids being social.
Yeah, just kids, people in general. But I just use kids as a preface because you know, you're around them every day.
Yeah. It's different, man. It's definitely different. I think it's evolving. I don't know if that's, you know, like, we can look at it for better or for worse, but I think it's evolving. I think I think it's always been evolving. I think like you were talking about the 80s, the 90s, you could approach a girl, you could holler at her. It wasn't really like that in the 50s. You had to go and, you know, knock on somebody's door and talk to their dad or something. And you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, I think it's like ever evolving. But I think like the reason why we're even sitting here talking about it is because I think the way that it's evolving with technology can be dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like some of the kids in particular are not getting some of the social skills that they might need. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just hollering at a girl, it's being able to just talk to a female and not, you know what I'm saying? And
not
know how to like, know how to present yourself in any situation, like, and not just live in the world of, you know, like, the internet got this, like, level of anonymity to where, like, people get comfortable being, like, saying stuff and, you know, acting a certain way. And a lot of kids, like, I see stuff online all the time that's like, you really posted that? You recorded yourself doing that? Like, they don't even understand. Like we came up with the generation was like, we don't want to be on tape. No, get that camera out of my face. Like, that's the generation we came up in. Yeah. Like, for them, it's like they want to do, like, they'll murder you on live stream and
for life.
Don't care about, like, they care about the popularity more than they care about the consequences. You know what I'm saying? So as far as like, yeah, man, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I think the kids even recognize it. I think, like, after COVID, the kids are still kind of like in recovery. But this is the first year after COVID. This school year, like, we're in summer right now. This past year is the first real year, and we're talking about after COVID, but this shit is still like going on right now. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah. It's different, man. Like, they come to school and they're all wearing masks, and they like, some of them haven't, like, I talk to them. I'm not just like making this up or what I think is going on. Like, some of them have told me that they're having a really hard time readjusting to school, or that the past year was so messed up that they're still just like dealing with that, like how bad the year before where they stayed at home had messed them up. You know, some of them thought it was cool being at home, and now that they're back, they see how much it held them back. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. I knew I had a lot of partners.
Man, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I had a lot of partners who I'll say I had 3 partners who their kids went through major depressions, man. Like, major depression. They just played video games. You know what I'm saying? That, like, I guess video games was how they socialized with crews. And these are boys. These are all boys. But that like video games, and I guess Twitch was kind of how they socialize with people. And so you know, like I said, 3 of my partners, they're like, man, my kid is depressed, and you know, I feel sorry for him because there's nothing he can do. He can't go out and get with his friends. Even if he wanted to get with his friends, he was already, you know, relying on more technology than I would feel comfortable with him relying on. But then technology is all he has. And so, like, so do you take that away from, you already see him going through something. So do you tell him, well, you know, don't play so many games, two or whatever. So I say all that to say, man, the hip hop world, I'm sure they're glad that you're going to release these sacred scrolls on us and let us hear this music. But the same way that I feel about my homeboys when I see, you know, pictures of their children and all that kind of thing, you know, I feel glad that you're an educator, man. I feel the kids need somebody like you that can like, that's not going to, and I don't know you from Adam. This is the first conversation, but like I said, we related by default. You know what I'm saying? If you cool with Flea, you cool with Lex.
Yeah.
We related by default.
The people we connected through only keep a certain energy around. So like we know that and we can trust that. Yeah.
That's tight. Well, no, man, I want to thank you for this conversation, man. And like I said, you know, I wanted to talk about your music somewhat, but I kind of wanted to build it up and let people know who you are. You know what I'm saying? And okay. you a lot more than Knowbody. You know what I'm saying? Lyrically,
man, right on.
Yeah, pun intended. So we gonna have you back on when you drop your first project. We definitely gonna have you back on, and we're gonna have that conversation. And hopefully by then you'll have some social media that some of the people that love you. Worst case scenario, have one of your students start a fan page, man. But it's enough people that like you that there should be something that the people that like you can go to. So with that being said, there's been another episode of Splendid Radio on PharcydeTV. I appreciate you, Knowbody. This has been a great conversation, and I wouldn't be surprised if I call you in about 5 minutes to ask you a couple of technical questions, because I do got a couple quick ones.
Hey, man, it's all good, man. I thank you for having me, man. Right quick, I appreciate it.
No, all good. Well, no, man, I appreciate you, and I'll catch up.